Am I Racist smashed records in theaters as the decade's #1 documentary. Now it's streaming only on DailyWire Plus with exclusive extras. Do you want to see it all? A DailyWire Plus membership is your ticket. Sign up at dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code TRUMP to get 47% off a new annual membership. The Biden-Harris administration has been caught intentionally and specifically denying disaster relief to Trump supporters after a hurricane killed dozens of Americans. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. While the Biden-Harris administration has shown callous disregard for whether or not Trump supporters live or die, a University of Oregon frat life director, who is also a Kamala supporter, he is actively telling Trump supporters to kill themselves. We'll get to all of that in one moment. It's a lot of death to start the show, isn't it? If you want to take the temperature down a little bit, bring the ambiance up, you're going to want to check out thecandleclub.com. Go to thecandleclub.com. In a world where traditional values are under attack, the Candle Club stands as a beacon of truth, a lighthouse, if you will. Started by a mom who refused to be silenced by cancel culture, the Candle Club is now America's premier conservative candle company. Each hand-poured candle supports family values while filling your home with premium, toxin-free fragrances. With 9 unique brands, from Salty and Lit's faith-inspired collections to exclusive Daily Wire host collaborations, including with yours truly. But also, you get Ben, Matt, Brett. We have literally and figuratively let truth burn bright. Find gifts under $30, perfect for moms, aunts, neighbors, teachers, or any conservative who cherishes quality, family, and tradition. Live free and smell fancy this Candle Club season, this holiday season. Maybe it's a Candle Club season now. What do you say? TheCandleClub.com. Head on over there today. Now, back to the darker machinations from our government. This is thanks to a Daily Wire exclusive report. Really, really good stuff from DW. I can say this without boasting because I had nothing to do with getting the documents for this report, but it is pretty amazing. The Daily Wire has obtained documents proving that FEMA has discriminated against Trump supporters. We have screenshots here provided to Daily Wire by a whistleblower. Internal messages obtained showing that FEMA ordered its relief workers not to help out homes that had Trump signs. So you see right here, implement best practices, avoid homes advertising Trump. That's the second bullet point on the list. The whistleblowers say they were told that this was a best practice. The workers would enter into the system that they made no contact with residents, and then they would blame the directive, which they had gotten, which said Trump sign, no contact per leadership. And so one whistleblower came out and said, this is too much. This is evil, obviously evil. Said, I thought we could go help and make a difference. When we got there, we were told to discriminate against people. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay. Now, of course, if you've been paying attention to the way that this administration acts, to the way that our federal government has been so corrupted, not just during the Biden-Harris administration, but earlier than that as well, then it won't be that surprising to you. But if you're someone who just signs up, I'm going to go help people who are the victims of a hurricane, and then you're told by your superiors, hey, don't provide any help. This hurricane that's killed dozens of Americans, don't provide any help if someone has a Trump sign in their yard. You let that person die. You let that person starve. You forget about them. You could imagine if you don't pay close attention to politics, you show up to help out your community, you would be quite scandalized. And FEMA knows this. So DW has received an update from FEMA. FEMA confirms this happened. Okay, so that's the top line takeaway. FEMA is not denying this. They're not saying this is fake news or an altered screenshot. They're saying, no, okay, this happened. And FEMA says that it is, quote, deeply disturbed by this employee's actions, quote, horrified that this took place. And they say that FEMA has taken, quote, extreme actions to correct this situation. Okay, good. Well, all of that talk is very cheap. It's very easy for FEMA to say that after the fact. Where is the accountability? Where is the proof that this has been corrected? Where is the proof that the wrongdoers have been punished? Where is the proof that this isn't going to happen again? Nothing. Just a lot of cheap talk from a corrupt federal government that has consistently and increasingly discriminated against and persecuted conservatives in recent years. It's not as though we didn't know this was happening. And this, to me, this is the best part. The best part of this whole story. It's an awful story, but the silver lining, I guess, is exposing this kind of corruption for everyone to see. Trump already said this was happening. Trump said this was happening back during Hurricane Helene. And here's what the New York Times said about it. Fact check. Fact check from the New York Times. Trump's false claims about the federal response to Hurricane Helene. The former president falsely accused the Biden administration of spending disaster funding on migrants. That also happened. But that's beside the point, because we're going to focus on the second thing Trump claimed that the New York Times says was false. Neglecting areas that had voted for Republicans and ignoring a call from a Republican governor. Fact check. Fact check. 10,000 Pinocchios. Trump lying yet again. Where on earth would Trump get the idea that the federal government, that FEMA, would intentionally neglect areas that had voted for a Republican? Oh, right, the text messages from FEMA that the DailyWire has exclusively obtained. You think there might be more text messages out there? If one news outlet, or one real news outlet like the DailyWire, not a fake news outlet like the New York Times, if one news outlet, thanks to a whistleblower, was able to obtain these kinds of documents, you think there might be more documents? You think this might have happened in other places? This reminds me of the FBI Catholic memo, the memo that revealed that the FBI had been spying on Catholic churches and treating traditional, normal, conservative Catholics as though we were domestic terrorists. And you remember there's one memo that leaked, and the FBI said, oh no, this is an isolated incident, one field office, we're appalled by this, we had no idea, all the same nonsense that FEMA's spouting. Oh, this is shocking, we've gotten to the bottom of it, don't worry, this is an isolated incident. And then what happened? We found out there was another memo at another field office. And actually, this was happening at other places all around the country. Seems pretty similar to me, but the gray lady, the paper of record, says, no, this isn't happening. Trump is a total liar. Fact check, totally false. Once again, President Trump is vindicated on a claim that he made. And once again, the New York Times is caught peddling fake news. What is the New York Times going to say? Well, no. He was talking about Hurricane Helene, not Hurricane Milton that occurred immediately afterward in basically the same place. Oh, yeah, that makes me feel a lot better. What? Are you kidding me? We just got a little bit of smoke that you denied existed. And now you're saying, don't worry, there's definitely no fire. Once again, President Trump vindicated. Once again, the New York Times caught peddling fake news. Which brings me to my broader and more practical point for the Trump administration. The next White House press secretary should strongly consider revoking the credential of the New York Times for the daily press briefing. I don't say this out of cruelty. I don't say this out of mad passion or anything like that. I say this dispassionately, having studied the situation for some time, having worked in this role as a press secretary. I worked as press secretary for a member of Congress on a campaign. On the campaign side. So I'm familiar with how the job is done. I'm not saying that one should act out of emotion or anything like that. But if you're a press secretary, you have to set the tone. You have to create disincentives for the media to lie about your candidate or the politician that you're representing. And you need to reward news outlets that tell the truth and report on things accurately. Might not always be flattering to your side, but if a news outlet is acting with integrity and reporting the news to the best of their ability and doing a basically good job of it, you want to reward those outlets. The New York Times, once considered the paper of record, has been so dishonest, so absolutely negligent and reckless with the facts in recent years, and specifically with regard to Trump. I think it would be irresponsible to continue to give the New York Times the basically unfettered access and the patina of prestige that it has enjoyed for so long. This is egregious stuff. And on this story, we're not just talking about the New York Times spreading fake news about, I don't know, some gossip from the West Wing or something. We're talking about a story in which Americans, half of the country, were targeted and persecuted by the federal government during a natural disaster that killed dozens of Americans. And the New York Times helped cover that up. That's egregious. That is a complete other level. And I think that the New York Times needs to face consequences for that. Now, speaking of talking, you ought to check out Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Did you know that Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans? As a veteran-led company, it is their passion project. That is why Pure Talk has alleviated $10 million in veteran debt and why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. They just donated $50,000 to MicroWorks, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Time to jump ship from Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. There is a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you will be helping our vets. It's a win-win. When you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you will get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. The only way that you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Knowles or call and mention my name. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES, today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. That is puretalk.com/KNOWLES. Now, speaking of other things that President Trump was right about, a great news story has just come out that Hamas is calling to end the war in Gaza immediately. The story was published November 6th. The election took place November 5th. It was clear by about midnight, a little after midnight on the 5th, that Trump was going to win. And then 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, the very next day, Hamas calls for an immediate end to the war. You know, President Trump has been saying on the campaign trail, when asked about these foreign policy problems that sprung up under Biden, he said they would have never happened under me. These wars are going to end. I'm going to be elected. These wars are going to end. It looks like we're seeing the beginning of this. Day after the election, Hamas calls to end the war. 4 days later, Qatar has reportedly announced it will no longer host Hamas. So Hamas is the terror organization that was elected in Gaza. Hamas leadership has a very cozy relationship with Qatar, and they have nice penthouses in Qatar, and Qatar hosts them. 4 days after Trump is elected, Qatar says, actually, you know what? We're good. No thanks. We don't want to risk a missile strike in our country. We don't want to risk damaging relations with, look, we have the Biden-Harris administration. They'll probably reward us if we harbor terrorists. But Trump, Mr. Cowboy Donald Trump, I don't think so. Lots and lots of pressure. Now, of course, the way that Hamas really could end the war is just release the hostages, the remaining hostages who haven't been killed in captivity. Release them, the war is going to be over. I suspect they're going to increasingly, as every day goes by that President Trump has been elected until the inauguration, I suspect Hamas is going to do everything it possibly can to end that war, because a real president is back in town now. And they remember that Trump, on the one hand, he would rebuff all of the war hawks of the Republican and Democrat establishment. In some ways, he seemed like a total dove on foreign policy. And then he'd drop the mother of all bombs. And then he would tell little rocket man in Korea that he's got a button and his button's bigger, or his nuclear weapons work. And then he would assassinate the top Iranian general. But he would also try to use diplomacy with Vladimir Putin. He would use diplomatic measures with Xi Jinping. He would bring down tensions in the Middle East. War hawks in both parties have wanted to bomb countries in the Middle East for decades now. Trump says, no, we want to bring peace to the Middle East. Gets the Abraham Accords. So the key to that foreign policy was, you just don't know what you're going to get. He's rather unpredictable, and bad actors around the world don't want to take the chance. Still, even amid all of this winning from Trump, some people are still upset by President Trump's victory in the election, including the University of Oregon Fraternity Life director, who has instructed Trump supporters to kill themselves.
I'm done crying. My sadness is over. My anger has set in. I am a very petty person, and I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually. And so I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go f*** yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, get a better paying job. Do better in life. Get a education. Do something. Because you are stupid. And I hope you go jump off of a bridge.
I don't care if you're my family. I don't care if we've been friends for a long time. If you voted for Trump because you can't afford groceries, I hope you kill yourself. You can always tell from that nose ring in the middle. You saw that? I don't know that I've ever seen a man with that kind of a nose ring. It's not the nose ring on the side, which, can be kind of nice sometimes. It's on a girl, not on a guy, obviously. But it's the one in the middle, the bull nose ring that looks like you're out of some Hieronymus Bosch painting or something. That one, I've never seen that nose ring on a stable or happy person, ever. Not once. So that's not a good sign. And then he opens his mouth and proves it. Imagine saying that to your family. Imagine saying that to your mother. Your mother voted for Trump. Say, I don't care if you're my family. I don't care you're my mother. Go kill yourself. What, just because you can't afford, you can't afford groceries. Yeah, well, and you voted for the guy who was a really good president over the incompetent liars on whose watch World War III seems about to kick off. Well, you know what? You go kill yourself, Mom. That's what he's saying. I don't care if you're in my family. I don't care if you're my childhood friend. What are we listening to? What are we looking at? We're looking at a total lack of charity. 3 theological virtues: faith, hope, and charity. Faith, the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. Hope is a theological fact. It's a virtue, but it's grounded in a fact of the resurrection. And charity is love, and charity is actually the most important of the theological virtues. Because if you do good things, but you do it without love, then you're like a clanging gong. And if you lack charity, that when you have certain political disagreements, say, you're going to jump to this conclusion. If you don't have love for other people, any minor political dispute, I don't know, a presidential election, a ballot referendum on raising the transit tax, I don't know, anything, any disagreement, any conflict will lead you to wish death on the other person because there's nothing binding you together. Love is to will the good of another for the person's own sake. So if you don't have any care whatsoever for the person's own good, then this is how you'll sound. But what kind of a world is that? What kind of life is this guy living where he says, yeah, all my friends, all my family, I don't care. Go kill yourselves. I would be happy if you killed yourselves. Very, very lonely world, very disordered kinds of politics. And I don't think the guy's really alone. He's at the University of Oregon. That's kind of crazy. It's not the only university that has fallen prey to madness. Ohio University and Harvard both canceled classes after Election Day. So a professor from Ohio, Amy Chadwick, has gone viral, has her pronouns in her bio, of course, writes to the class, "Hi all, I've decided to cancel class today to give space to those who are devastated by the election results. I've already interacted with students who are hurting badly, who are scared, who are tired, who are unsure how to go on. For those of you who are sad, scared, traumatized, angry, etc., please know you are not alone. You're not alone. There are resources available to help you support yourself. Please take time to take care of yourself. Find small joys and hold close the people who matter to you and tell everyone else to go kill themselves." No, I'm kidding. She didn't put that in there. She goes on, blah, 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 blah. All the best to Amy. Suffice to say, Amy Chadwick would not have sent this email had Kamala won the election. I would have been rather sad had Kamala won the election. I'd be sad because you would see the promotion. Well, you'd see the further dissolution of our economy. It'd be hard for people to afford groceries. You would see the promotion of infanticide on a mass scale. That would make me sad. You would see further attacks on the family, further attacks on the rights of religious. You would see the promotion of castrating little children and pretending that they're the opposite sex. You would see a lot of things that would make me sad. But they wouldn't cancel class, and no professors would be telling us to find the small joys and hug those close to us. Harvard basically did the same thing. Harvard professors, not the whole school, but Harvard professors canceled class after the Trump win. My heart dropped a little bit. One student said, it was a very somber campus, this from the Harvard Crimson. This was actually the greatest hint that I had, one of the greatest hints I had that Trump was going to win, is a friend of mine who's in a PhD program was informed before the election that there would be lectures and meetings about how to cope with educating in a time of awful Trumpian fascism after the election. I thought, okay, so clearly the lib professors think that the election very likely could go toward Trump. My only question with all of these professors, it's really awful. Obviously, university employees who are telling more than half the country to kill themselves probably should not be employed, should not be involved in education. But for the Ohio professor, for the Harvard professors, do the students and parents get a refund? If a professor cancels class because the professor is so devastated that a Republican won an election, do the students who paid for the classes, often through expensive loans, or do the parents who sometimes pay for the classes, do they get a refund? Probably not. Then I think the professor's pay needs to be docked, okay? And I think there has to be the consequence. We should not tolerate this stuff. We should fire people for doing this stuff, and not out of cruelty. Unlike the Oregon frat director with the weird nose ring, I don't hate these people. I don't want them to kill themselves. I actually want what is good for them. They are not in a good place. They've totally lost their minds. And so I want something good for them. And in order for them to have a good life, they have to be punished. This is the takeaway from Socrates in Plato's Gorgias, okay? It would actually be contrary to the happiness of these people. It's contrary to the happiness of wrongdoers for them to consistently get away with their wrongdoing. They need to be corrected here out of love, out of helpfulness, but these people need to be punished for their insanity or it's only going to get worse. You know, Am I Racist? Became the biggest documentary of the decade in theaters. It is now streaming exclusively on DailyWire Plus. If you watch on DailyWire Plus, you will see a deleted scene with Matt as his beloved children's book character, Johnny the Walrus. Plus, behind-the-scenes footage where Matt reveals how he pulled off the biggest troll in the history of the left. Yes, unfortunately for them, it was all very real. The only way to watch Am I Racist and get access to this exclusive content is with a DailyWire Plus membership. Are you not a member yet? Well, now's the time to join. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code TRUMP for 47% off a new annual membership. We turn from Harvard to Yale. A Yale psychiatrist has just gone on Joy Reid Show on MSNBC to advise libs to cut off their conservative family members at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
If you are going into a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why, to say, I have a problem with the way that you voted because it went against my very livelihood and I'm not going to be around you this holiday. I need to take some space for me. I think there's a level of need to establish boundaries. And if you feel like you need to establish boundaries with people, whether they're your family or not, I think you should very much be entitled to do so.
Are you noticing a theme here among all these people, some of whom are from very elite institutions? Hey, if you're my family member, you voted for Trump, go kill yourself. Hey, if you have a family member who voted for Trump, don't go to Thanksgiving. Don't go to Christmas. Don't be friends with Republicans. Don't acknowledge that you're family members with Republicans. This is the perfect follow-up to that Julia Roberts ad. Remember that Julia Roberts ad in the campaign? Julia Roberts says, hey, women, even if your husband likes Trump, you should go into the voting booth and cancel out his vote That big, dumb, fat, stupid idiot. Don't you hate your husband? I bet you want to divorce him. That's right. Well, if you can't divorce him yet, at least go annul his vote in the voting booth. That's right. Your fat, dumb, stupid husband. I'm noticing a theme that the left wants to consistently undermine the family. The left has to consistently undermine the family. It's been doing it for about a century now, undermining it through the liberalization of divorce, through the discouragement of marriage, through the promotion of all sorts of things, contraception, abortion, all the sexual revolution, promiscuity, LGBT, LMNOP kind of stuff, all of it. Then the redefinition of marriage within the last decade, and then now this. Undermine your husband at the voting booth and don't show up to Thanksgiving with your cousin or your mother, for that matter. Democrats want to break up families. The reason Democrats want to break up families has a practical aspect and an ideological aspect. Start with the ideological. The ideological aspect is that the liberal view is that man is fundamentally an individual. The conservative view is that man is fundamentally a political animal, coming from Aristotle, a social creature, a person born not in the abstract floating in outer space with perfect rights and entitlements, but rather a part of a community, the natural community, the natural society, the fundamental political building block, which is the family, with obligations to our parents, to our siblings, then from there to our community, to our state, to our country. The liberal view, we're all just individuals. We can be whatever we want. We're perfectly autonomous. We even have autonomy over our own biology, over our own selves. If we're men, we want to become women, we can. If we want to murder our children, that's our right. Total individuals. So that's the ideological point. The practical reason the left hates the families, though, is that family is the chief impediment to the left's schemes. This is why the left is constantly trying to take your kids out of the home at younger and younger ages, government-funded pre-K. I think they basically take the kids from the neonatal unit and put them in drag queen story hour at the elementary school library. As a practical matter, we know that families sometimes object to ideologies that are being taught at younger and younger ages. So we say, okay, if your family objects to an ideology, maybe Child Protective Services is going to come in and take your kids away. If your parents won't affirm your transgender identity, well, maybe CPS is going to have to come in there and take your kids from you. This stuff is really happening. Maybe if the left does succeed at getting the parents to have a divorce, maybe the judges are going to favor the party that is pro-leftist ideology. There's a fight over whether or not to trans a kid. Guess which party is going to win in court? Guess which parent? That's what they're after. So it's no surprise. Of course they do. They want the libs to cut off their conservative family members. They hate family. This is just an excuse to do it. Now, one last school I'll get to. One last college before we move on, and it has to do with the place that I'm going today. That would be Iowa. I'm heading to the University of Iowa. You should come on by. If you are in the area, Cedar Rapids, come on by. You can get tickets. I think I tweeted out the link, or I think there might still be tickets, maybe not, but go check it anyway. It'd be great to see you out there. And worst case, we can do standing room, or they can try to expand the room or something like that. So head on over. I will be heading out immediately after this show today. But in the lead up to my visit, the Iowa Gazette had a whole big feature on what my visit means. And I'll just read from the X post from the reporter who put out this feature. Days after Trump's historic victory, returning him to the White House, conservative commentator Michael Knowles on Monday will speak at the University of Iowa, inciting pushback from some on campus in the form of vandalism and planned protests. Inciting? Hold on. Wait, I'm inciting? To incite, I don't have my Oxford English Dictionary in front of me, but to incite is to encourage, to urge on some violent or illegal or otherwise unseemly action. When have I done that? When have I encouraged vandalism? When have I encouraged people to protest me in the form of vandalism or perhaps some other violence? Incite? I've incited vandalism by accepting the invitation of students to give a lecture at a university? What? Really a wonderful little article here, a pretty long feature about the speech. So anyway, I don't know, maybe they'll update it once I give it. This is what the press does, okay? All of this, I mean, it'll be fun to speak at Iowa tonight, but I don't even mention the story so much for me as for what it says about this election. I'll obviously be talking about the election. It will be a celebratory occasion. And the Libs are already fired up. They've apparently already vandalized some of the posters advertising my visit. So they wrote fascist on one of them. It's too bad. It's a nice little picture, too, and they just covered it up with the word fascist. And the University of Iowa Young Americans for Freedom group has complained about this. You know, the kids aren't really allowed to do this. This is what the press does. They lie. The conservatives are always the bad guys. The left is always the good guys, even when the left is vandalizing posters, threatening violence, burning down cities, ignoring legitimate conservative needs, denying potentially life-saving assistance to conservatives during natural disasters. It's always somehow that the conservatives are the bad guys and the liberals are the good guys. This Knowles accepts an invitation to speak, inciting vandalism. It's just another form of the typical leftist formula, which is conservatives pounce. The left engages in some scandal, the left commits some bad act, and then the newspaper headline is about the conservatives reacting to the bad thing that the leftists did. Conservatives pounce on leftist vandalism. Hold on, wait, what's the story here? Is the story that the left has committed some form of violence, or is the story that conservatives object to the left committing some form of violence? Well, the conservatives pounce. The Knowles incites story is an example of the latter. This is, I think, largely why the left lost this election and why Trump won. The press always does this, but this time they couldn't quite get away with it. And they couldn't quite get away with it because of this perfect storm of lies being exposed. In many ways, Kamala lost because of the press. Because the press kept lying. Oh, Biden, he's as sharp as ever. Biden doesn't have a hint of dementia. The establishment media almost uniformly told us for years. Oh, no, the economy, it's all great. Oh, there's no border crisis. Everything's wonderful. Everything's coming up roses. Until Biden is exposed during that debate with Trump, and the American people realize they've been lied to by the press, by Kamala, by Biden, but also by the press for years. Ooh, oopsie daisy, then the press has to flip on a dime. Oh, yeah, we actually need to swap out Biden for Kamala. Hold on, you just told me Biden's in great shape. None of you knew this? None of you saw this? Or isn't your job to get the facts? Isn't your job to have proximity to power and see what's really going on here? Oh, right, you just lied to us. Then Kamala comes in and she realizes, look, the calculations change now. I don't need to carry water for Biden. I'm a new candidate. So all of a sudden, Kamala can say, look, we're going to go in a new direction. I'm a new generation of leadership. I'm not Joe Biden. I'm not responsible for the Biden record. So then all of a sudden, the press says, okay, well, hold on. Now we're not going to say the Biden record is totally uniformly good. Now we'll admit there are actually a lot of problems with it. And maybe there's some economic problems and maybe there are some migrant problems. And that Kamala's in a really bad shape too, because Kamala has held both sides of every issue. And the press has carried water for her, but carried water on both sides. That exposes her further. And then I think this issue that keeps cropping up, that the left wants to minimize as some trivial issue, but I don't think it is trivial. It's this issue. That's a big one. Because people can see that men and women are different. People can see that a dude is not a little girl. People can see with their own two eyes that there's something about a man stripping down in a public school changing room with a little girl in front of him. They just know that. There are just lies when they're told in such rapid succession with such egregious subject matter, such enormous subject matter, that the lies will expose not just the particular subject, they will expose the liars themselves. I think that's really the issue here. So the media were caught with their pants down in the public school or in the public pool locker room, getting changed where they shouldn't. The media were caught with their pants down. The emperor had no clothes on. And Kamala lost. Great. I love it. Thank you. All in the passive will expressed in Providence, do we see that even bad people doing bad things can be used for good. And we've seen a lot of good in the past week. Now, my favorite comment yesterday is from the Drummers Workshop Norms Music. It says, all those women in the 4B movement, the movement that says they're going to swear off men forever. Good luck opening jars. Good point. Oh, it's real easy to say you're not going to sleep with men anymore. Real easy to say you're not going to get married or have kids. What happens, though? It's 9 p.m. Pasta on the stove. But you can't get that ragu top off. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call, huh? Don't call me. Speaking of women and meltdowns, Christina Applegate. She's an actress. Those of us who are old enough to remember will remember Married with Children. Very funny network TV show. Christina Applegate was the daughter in that. But she's a huge lib actress. And Christina Applegate posted this. Please unfollow me if you voted against female rights, by which she means killing kids. Please unfollow me if you voted against female rights. Against disability rights. What does that have to do with anything? I have no idea. Yeah, that. Unfollow me. Because what you did is unreal. Don't want followers like this. So yeah, done. Also, after today, I will be shutting down this fan account. It's not even my personal account. It's an account for all my fans because I'm really famous. That I've had for so many years. Because this is sick. Hate you guys. Why don't you jump off a bridge? She didn't say that, but it's the same. It's the same sentiment. I'm not saying that the majority of people can't do something that's wrong. They can. The majority of people can act in disreputable and even despicable ways. However, if you can't even understand why the majority of people would do something, the problem lies not primarily with the people, but with your understanding. It's a you problem. Most people voted for Barack Obama. I think Barack Obama was horrible. I think he was a horrible president. I think he obviously hates America and has expressed his hatred of America. For instance, when he said he wanted to fundamentally transform America, you don't want to fundamentally transform things you love. I think he was just awful for this country. And I think it was shameful that the American people fell for his glib, really ugly routine. Okay? But I get why they voted for him. He's a smooth talker. They've been raised in the images and fantasies of liberalism, and he was going to be the first black president, so they'd feel that they had defeated racism. That's why they voted for him. I get it. I think there were lots of flaws in those premises, but I get why people voted for him. Christina Applegate doesn't get why people voted for Trump. She thinks it's because they hate women or something. They hate the disabled. Again, I don't even... At least when they say, if you vote for Trump, you hate women, what they're saying is that women's rights equals murdering babies. A flawed premise, but that's what they think. Disabled? I don't even know what this woman's talking about. She doesn't even know what she's talking about. But this is just my charitable advice, a little bit, for those libs out there who are not going to skip Thanksgiving, who are not going to write off their conservative relatives or tell their Trump voting parents to go jump off a bridge. My advice to you is this. If you cannot even fathom why someone would vote for Trump, much less why most Americans would vote for Trump, much less why 1 in 5 black men would vote for Trump. I thought we were told Trump is racist. Much less why 46%, almost half of Hispanics, both sexes, would vote for Trump. Much less why even young single women are moving more in the Trump camp and why married women voted for Trump. If you can't understand that, maybe it's a you problem. Maybe there's a failure of your intellect and your imagination. Maybe it's a failure of knowledge. You know what I suspect a lot of it comes down to? I suspect a lot of it is you only consume the fake news. You listen to the New York Times. So you're told that President Trump was lying or otherwise wrong when he said that the Biden-Harris administration was discriminating against Trump supporters in disaster relief efforts. However, we now know, FEMA has confirmed that actually the Biden-Harris administration did actively discriminate against Trump supporters when providing potentially life-saving disaster relief. If you knew that fact, if all you knew was what the New York Times said, you'd probably be more inclined to vote for Kamala. However, if you knew that fact, if you knew the New York Times was lying to you, if you knew that the Biden-Harris administration was discriminating against Trump supporters in disaster relief, maybe you would be more likely to vote for Trump. If all you knew was the New York Times, that Trump's going to start World War III, you might be more likely to vote for Harris. If you knew the facts, which is that Trump brought relative peace, a greater, more widespread, deeper sort of peace to geopolitics than we've seen maybe in my entire lifetime, certainly over the last 20 years, you might be more likely to vote for Trump. I think even when you think about the lies that were exposed, how the media was so caught with its pants down, maybe the greatest example of that was the assassination attempt over the summer. Because the media had been saying with a drumbeat consistently for years, Trump is a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to our republic. Trump is going to lead to violence in the streets. And then a sudden last-minute turn of 20 degrees is all that stopped the back of Trump's head from being blown off on stage in Pennsylvania. You say, maybe this guy is not the threat to democracy. Maybe the threats to democracy are actually being waged against this guy when they tried to kick him off the ballots, when they tried to imprison him 4 times. Maybe what I thought I knew just isn't true. It's that old Reagan line. It's not that the left is ignorant, it's just that they know so many things that aren't so. Maybe that's it. Here's something else. Here's another confounding little fact you might not have guessed. CNN has reported it. Trump won the Catholic vote. Trump won the Catholic vote by 18 points. Now, you would think, well, yeah, the Catholic, they're Christian. They tend to be a little more traditional, smells and bells and all that. So, of course, but the Catholic vote had been split, Republicans and Democrats. And really, they've favored Democrats recently. According to the reports, Joe Biden won the Catholic vote last time by 5 points. Trump wins it by 18 points this time? Whoa. How'd that happen? Well, it might have something to do with Kamala cutting through the BS. The media is saying, no, it's the left isn't anti-Christian. No, the left is to be a good Christian, actually, you need to vote for abortion and the end of marriage. No, of course. But then Kamala's out there to rally. She said, hey, you Christians who just said Jesus is Lord, yeah, you're at the wrong rally. Yeah, you need to go to that Trump rally. You're at the wrong rally. We don't do that here. We don't believe that here. On top of that, you would say Joe Biden is at least nominally Catholic. Kamala's not even nominally Catholic. Kamala skipped the Al Smith dinner, the classic event, the Catholic charity dinner that presidential candidates traditionally go to. Also, as the number of self-identifying Christians shrink, which is happening all throughout the West and in America, I think it stands to reason that the proportion of Christians, and in this case, quite specifically Catholics, who take the faith seriously will grow. And they're going to get more trad. They're going to get more based. This was Alexei de Tocqueville's prediction in Democracy in America. He said, as America grows, as it develops, religion is going to trend in one of 2 ways. Right now, it's this hodgepodge of all sorts of Protestant variations. But Tocqueville says, in probably the best observation about the American polity ever written, he says religion's going to tend in one of 2 directions. Either the Christians are going to become more Catholic, they're going to become more traditional, they're going to become more high church, but he says they're going to go in the direction of Catholicism, or they're going to give up Christianity altogether. With the ascent of a traditional, conservative, Orthodox Catholic vice president, the person of J.D. Vance, a lot of Catholics around the Trump movement, a lot of Catholics now voting 18 points for Trump. This is a pretty good sign. Meanwhile, this will just have to be a little tease because I got to go catch a flight. But meanwhile, there is a rise in religion on university campuses too. Atheist chaplains. They're giving up God, but they don't want to give up their chaplains. We will get into the apparently paradoxical position of the atheist chaplain, but not right now because I got to go to Iowa. If you're in Iowa, If you're around Cedar Rapids, I will see you over there tonight. No member block. Maybe I should do my member block from the airplane. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. See you later on.